All right, welcome to this explainer. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. You stretch, look out the window, and the sky is just dry. No rain, not a drop. You wait a day, still nothing. A week goes by, nothing. A whole month, absolutely bone dry. Today, we're walking through a pretty wild scientific thought experiment. We're going to explore exactly what would happen to our world if the skies just shut off the water.
So let's really dive into this. It's a terrifying, yet kind of fascinating fictional scenario. We're going to run a 365-day countdown to see exactly how our planet, our ecosystems, and honestly, our entire society would react as the days tick by without a single drop of moisture falling from above for a whole year.
Now, before we get too deep, let's do a quick reality check. Stopping all rainfall globally? Yeah, that's scientifically impossible with our current technology. Earth's natural systems are just way too powerful. But by applying real, hard science to this fictional scenario, we can actually uncover just how incredibly delicate our world truly is.
Because, think about it, rain isn't just water falling from the sky, right? It's a massive, crucial step in the global water cycle. Water evaporates from our oceans, forms into clouds, falls as rain, refills our rivers and groundwater, and eventually makes its way back to the sea. It's literally the continuous engine keeping Earth's interconnected ecosystems alive. You break that cycle, well, you break the engine.
So let's start the clock. Day 1 to day 7, the very first week without rain. And surprisingly, the changes are almost completely unnoticeable.
At first, we get this bizarre illusion of normalcy. The world doesn't just instantly turn into a giant desert. You look up, clouds are still floating by, rivers are still flowing, lakes look perfectly full. But underneath that deceptive calm, there's a huge hidden threat. Farmers, who honestly understand this cycle way better than the rest of us, begin quietly panicking. They know we're basically living on borrowed time, surviving purely on temporary water reserves.
But as we leave that initial calm behind and hit the 30-day mark, that illusion of safety, it really starts to crack.
By month 1, the global drought is intensely visible. The soil is rapidly baking and cracking. Plant life is getting super stressed without that surface moisture. You'd literally see reservoir water lines dropping and smaller rivers getting weaker and weaker as the world's natural thirst just grows.
And food production? It suddenly becomes exponentially harder. Without natural watering from the sky, crops are desperate for moisture. Farmers are forced to crank up their irrigation systems, which massively increases our dependence on stored water. Suddenly, there are very real fears about failing crops and global food prices shooting through the roof.
Fast forward to day 90, 3 months in. That quiet worry we talked about, it's now a blaring alarm. We have to ask, what happens when Earth's backup reserves actually start running dry in the places people need them the absolute most?
At 90 days, this drought is spreading aggressively. Smaller streams are just completely gone from the landscape. Essential wetlands are shrinking dramatically. Wild animals are struggling intensely just to find a drink of water. And our forests, they're completely dried out. We're talking massive tinderboxes, highly vulnerable to devastating fires. And cities are getting deeply concerned as their primary water supplies visibly dwindle away.
Now, crucially, the effects wouldn't look exactly the same everywhere. Some places would hold on to their water a bit longer because, well, rivers and lakes rely on more than just yesterday's rainfall. Regions tapping into snowmelt, deep groundwater, or those huge man-made reservoirs, they'd have these freshwater lifelines that temporarily delay the disaster. But make no mistake, without new rain, even those massive backups are starting to shrink.
Which brings us to day 180, half a year. 6 full months without a single drop of rain. We are now officially in a compounding global crisis. At this point, crops inevitably fail, triggering huge agricultural crises. Inside the cities, governments are slapping down strict, desperate water rationing. Outside the cities, wildlife is forced into these panicked mass migrations just trying to survive, which causes widespread ecosystem damage. Literally everything is competing for the exact same vanishing resource.
Now, before we hit the 1-year mark, I actually need to clear something up. There's this common myth that in a scenario like this, Earth just loses all its water and turns into a giant barren rock. But Earth isn't leaking water into space. The scientific fact is the oceans are still absolutely enormous. The real problem? The freshwater cycle is broken. The oceans are still evaporating, sure, but without rain, that fresh water never ever returns to the land to replenish the balance.
And that brings us to day 365, one entire year, not a single drop.
After a whole year, even with geography and deep groundwater creating some regional differences, the overall picture is incredibly grim. Reservoirs are either dangerously low or just totally empty. Vast stretches of once green forests are dead or dying. Human civilization is buckling under the immense weight of collapsing food systems and unprecedented pressure. It's a totally different world.
But here's the absolute biggest twist of this entire simulation. Imagine that on day 366, the skies finally open up. The drought breaks, rain starts pouring down across the planet. Would everything just instantly snap back to normal?
Counterintuitively, the answer is an absolute no.
You see, the sudden return of rain would actually be a massive shock to the system. That bone-dry, baked soil, it actually becomes hydrophobic, meaning it repels heavy water instead of soaking it up. Because of that, the returning rain would cause catastrophic flash flooding. We're talking massive sheets of water wiping out crucial topsoil before agriculture could even think about recovering. Damaged ecosystems take a lot of time to heal, and those empty rivers and reservoirs, they take a long, careful time to safely refill.
And I think this brilliantly illustrates our big takeaway from this explainer. You know, we constantly complain when it rains. It ruined my weekend plans, it's too wet, whatever. But the water cycle is so deeply interconnected. Changing just one tiny element, stopping that continuous flow of fresh water, could fundamentally alter our forests, our rivers, our wildlife, and human civilization itself. Rain really is one of the absolute most essential systems keeping our planet alive.
So, I'm going to leave you with a final thought to ponder today. What would you miss first if Earth stopped getting rain? A specific food? Green grass? Or maybe petrichor? You know, that amazing smell of rain hitting dry Earth. Tell me in the comments below. If you enjoyed diving into this mind-blowing science explainer, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so we can keep exploring together. See you next time.